broadcasting from the studios of WKEN, where every day it's the weekend. It's the Ken Calvert Show with your host, Ken Calvert.
Derek Richards is my guest here in the cozy studios of WKEN, where every day is the weekend. Welcome to the studios.
Thank you for having me.
You were looking around. Yeah, it looks pretty.
This is badass. This is like my ultimate. This would be like an ultimate man cave.
We got some good stuff in here. I should probably get after it a little bit and straighten it up a little bit, but it's comfortable, it's cozy.
This
and
is bad. This is cool as hell.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And welcome to the studios. You've got a big day going, and we're going to get to that in just a couple of moments, because today was the release of the Irish Comedy Tour on many platforms, right?
Yeah, I think 10 altogether.
I don't quite understand. Is it an aggregate of shows or a show that you did that is now up on the platform?
It's actually a special that we had shot.
In Connecticut, was it?
Well, we shot the actual live show in Connecticut.
Okay.
And then what we did is I have a good friend of mine, comedian, who was an independent filmmaker in Las Vegas, who saw the special, and he said, I've got some ideas with this. He goes, give me the footage. And he goes, and I want you guys to go on the road and get footage of you guys on the road for a year. And so we did that. And so we literally, all 4 members of our group, had our cameras, we had on our phones, and then literally some video cameras, and we just filmed us acting like idiots. And so the cool thing was he took all that footage and combined it with the stage footage. So what's cool is that it was a 90-minute show that we did in Connecticut, but it's condensed to an hour long, and it cuts to us on stage.
Yeah.
So it's like me for a couple minutes on stage, and it cuts to us on the road acting the fool, and then cuts to one of our other performers on stage, and it cuts back to us on the road. So it's nice because the viewer gets to not only see what we do on stage, but gets to know us and how we interact with each other. And it's really fun. It's very fast-paced. As you know, in today's society, everybody has the attention span of a goldfish. And so you've got to keep everything fast-moving. Otherwise, people, oh, hey, look, a squirrel. And they go, oh, something shiny. And they vanish. So and I can't even... And I become victim to that. I think we all have.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it just starts with the phone. I mean, if somebody all of a sudden sees a light go off on their phone, they're distracted away from, and especially when you're dealing with comedy, you really kind of have to be paying attention.
Yes.
I think it's important to follow along with the band, if you know what I mean.
I agree completely.
I mean, if you're not there for the right setup to that particular joke, you're not going to laugh, you're not going to get it, you're not going to think it's funny, you're going to go, put it on pause.
Right.
So... Cell phones down, distractions out of the way, sit down and have a look at 1 hour. Can you take 1 hour, ladies and gentlemen, and have a look at the Irish Comedy Tour? Can you do that for us? Okay, ladies, I'm not asking you to send any money. I'm just asking you to do Derek a large here. Can you do that for us? So you get together with all of these guys. You referred to us. Who are us?
The group is myself, also Mike McCarthy, who's a comedian out of Boston, and Derek Keane, who's our singer-guitar player from Dublin, Ireland, and Damon Liebert is our fiddle player from Nova Scotia originally.
Wait a minute. Now, you're comedians and you're also musicians.
Yes. It's a cool setup because it's like the best of St. Patrick's Day rolled into... a 90-minute stage show without the fights and the arrests.
Right.
So it works out perfect.
At least on stage.
Yeah. I mean, you can drink when you watch it if you want. If you want to reenact it and punch your neighbor, I mean, knock yourself out. I'm not going to judge. Yeah. So the musicians go out, and it's like the best of an Irish pub rolled into a comedy show. So the musicians come out and kind of get the show started, do some of the classic Irish drinking songs, get the crowd fired up. And then I come out and do about 30, 35 minutes on stage. Then the musicians come back out and do their thing for another 10 minutes, and then our other comedian, Mike McCarthy, comes out. This is the stage show. And then at the end, we all kind of wrap it up and do a tune, and then the show's done at that point. But with this show, the way the special was edited, like I said, it cuts back and forth to our musicians, us on the road, cuts to me on stage for a couple jokes, back to us on the road, the other comedian, then the musician. So it's just constantly boom, 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 the entire... I think the running time on the show is like 57 minutes for the special.
So are you the upfront comic, basically?
I am the founder.
Okay.
I started the thing back in 2006.
All right. So you can say, don't edit that.
I wish I could say that.
Leave that in. That's me.
We were very lucky. The distributor who picked this up, Comedy Dynamics out of Burbank, California, picked this up, and they really didn't do much of anything as far as the editing was concerned. We were very, very fortunate because I had a friend of mine that actually referred me to the distributor, and they said, once you hand it over, it's like you give up your baby for adoption.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And your new adoptive parents can paint the baby's face. They can they can give it a unicorn horn. They can do whatever they want.
So you're sitting on pins and needles until you get back the final edit, I bet, yeah?
Yeah, because it needs to go through all these different sets of eyes. And people don't realize when someone says, oh, why don't you get a special on HBO, or why don't you get a special on Showtime? And now, after going through what I went through, I just want to throw them through a plate glass window.
I bet you do.
When you really,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like recording an album. Someone said, well, you should record an album.
Yeah.
You got a band. I'm like, okay, well, let me just get the studio time and get a producer and somebody to master it and do all that stuff.
Yeah,
So-
and have you looked at how much people now make when they actually go through the cost of putting together studio time and then getting it out to the various platforms? By the time you're done spending your advance, all of the costs that you needed, you ain't going to make any money.
No.
Honey.
Enjoy your ramen noodles.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
But getting back to that, that's the important stuff that you have to do up front. So you got all of that done. So let's say you've got about $35,000 into it, $35,000.
Right.
How do you get your money back, Derek?
Well, now it airs on all these different platforms. And so it's on Amazon Prime, Dish, DirecTV, iTunes,
And
Google
people look
Play.
for what in their guide?
Just type in the Irish Comedy Tour, or
The
you have
Irish-
your voice remote. Just say the Irish Comedy Tour,
The Irish Comedy Tour, okay.
and then it's on YouTube TV. And so there's options where you can buy the special for like $12, or you can rent it for like $3 or $4.
Okay.
And then so once that money comes in, whatever platform it goes, you watch it on, whether it's Amazon Prime or Dish or whoever your carrier is, they take their chunk of the money.
Yeah.
And then the funnel comes down, then the distributor gets their chunk of the money. The funnel comes down a little further.
Yeah.
And then we get a couple drops at the end.
The four guys, you all get along well. The four of
Yeah.
you, all right. And you're all genuinely Irish.
Yes.
All of the humor is drawn from the Irish and probably some of their vices like drinking.
Oh, absolutely.
So that might come up a little bit in
Absolutely.
the act. Okay.
Yeah, stereotypes don't come from a void.
I see.
So,
what, I see
especially
what
with
you're-
the Irish.
I see what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Absolutely.
As Ted Nugent would say, I'm getting next to what you're saying. So,
No, like my grandparents came over from Ireland. Mike McCarthy's grandparents, same thing. Derek Keane is from Ireland. Damon Liebert, as I said, is from Nova Scotia. But he literally is, hands down, to me, he's Eddie Van Halen on a fiddle.
no kidding.
He's a classically trained fiddle player.
Isn't that great?
And he just picks up the fiddle and flies.
Really?
And when you watch the special and you see him, and the camera work they did was brilliant. They really did a great job catching his technique and what he does. But he's so good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. You play a fiddle like that, you are now Irish.
Yeah.
But we put him in a leprechaun outfit. The guy happens to be like 5'5".
You really do that?
Swear.
Okay.
Where do you see it? Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right.
It's hilarious.
And it's up
It's
now.
funny.
By the
Yes.
way, we should remind people again. By the time this is posted, it'll be up and running. But I want to go back and so we've got the fellas established.
Mm-hmm.
You guys actually get along. Is there one that you think you can't name yourself?
Okay.
Who's the funniest guy in the group?
You know what's funny?
Because they're going to all be listening, and I want to see how you get along after you give me the answer.
I would say it's our fiddle player.
Oh,
and
really?
he says nothing during the show. He is like Teller from Penn and Teller.
Oh, is that right?
I mean,
Okay.
he doesn't say anything on stage at all. He just plays the fiddle. But his character on stage, he is so animated, and he is just a ball of energy. And him off stage, he's very analytical, and just one of those guys where when he says something and he hits you with a dart and he insults you.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see it coming. You know, it's like all of a sudden, like if your grandma just dressed you down for no reason at all whatsoever.
Right.
And it's so funny and so out of left field. He cracks me up. He just finds just the craziest things to joke around about, and it just because he's never quote unquote on.
Right.
And that's actually nice for us being off stage. There's nothing worse than being around comedians that are on all the time.
The worst.
Insufferable.
We have so many different avenues we can take, and I guess I'll make a left turn right here then. As you and I were talking about before we started recording, my experience goes back so many years with having various comedians in the studio. Some were just terrific. Others weren't funny. They were funny on stage, but they weren't funny first thing in the morning. They didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And there was nothing worse than a comedian that doesn't want to be there. And then we got into that style, too, where I'm not going to do that here. I want to save it for the show tonight. It was kind of like, well, maybe if you throw one or two of those out there, that'll really encourage the people to come to the show tonight. But you started in Detroit. You grew up in the area, actually, Romeo, Michigan. And then you went to Specs Howard School of Broadcast, hoping to be a radio guy?
You.
Really? You wanted
This is insanely surreal. I mean, I wanted to be in Detroit radio. I told you this on the phone yesterday we were talking. I said, this is so bizarre that I'm on the phone talking with you about coming in to do this podcast. And I'm like, and I told you yesterday, I grew up listening to you.
Well, that's cool. Thank you.
I had my car I had a 1975 LTD that my grandpa gave me.
Nice.
That had all these, riff stickers on the back of it.
Sure.
Baby. I mean, every concert that I went to, it was just... Yeah, the whole back bumper was held together by those riff stickers.
So you graduated, did you, from Specs Howard?
Yes, I did. Back in, it would have been...
What happened to your radio career?
I was in radio for 7 years.
You were?
From 86 till 93.
Where?
I started off in Likens, Pennsylvania, a little small town outside of Harrisburg.
What was the format?
Full service.
Oh, okay.
With AM.
Yeah.
Played crappy music and did the farm report and did all that stuff.
You did, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then came back here, left there because the station was in financial turmoil. Yeah. Came back here to Michigan, ended up working part-time in Marine City.
All right.
At WSMA.
Okay.
AM station. Then I was in Adrian, Michigan at WABJ.
WABJ.
Absolutely.
Little Don Imus.
That was a nice Don Imus.
How about his own,
It's a nice Imus.
Oh, thanks.
Impressive.
Yeah. Probably me doing everybody else that does Imus, but that's okay.
Close enough. I knew what you're talking about.
By the way, that's what we should talk about this for just a second.
Yeah.
And you're a professional comedian. You've been doing it for a long time. You make a lot of money doing it. You're here. You're talking about your special, the Irish Comedy Tour. It's up now on all these various platforms. But don't you think comics that do impressions are doing impressions of the best guy that does the impression? In other words, take Frank Caliendo, okay? And you take his John Madden. Don't you think every subset of that impersonation is not of John Madden, but of Caliendo's version of John Madden? Did that make sense? Did I piece that together?
I haven't thought of it that deep.
Okay. Let's take, for example...
That medication's opening up parts of your head.
I know, but okay.
That's impressive.
I think radio guys that do impressions of the guy that really does a great impression.
I think that's a good...
All right.
Yeah, and I'll give Caliendo credit because he's doing a lot of impressions that you don't see a lot of people do.
Exactly.
I mean, he was doing great impressions of, like you said, John Madden, John Gruden.
Yep.
So he does a fantastic job with it. But you get a lot of impressionist guys that, when I was starting off, they were very hacky. Everybody was doing a Jack Nicholson impression.
Exactly.
Everyone's doing Robert De Niro.
There you go. Yeah.
And there was always just the same people all the time.
Everybody was doing Sly Stallone. There was a time when everybody was also doing like Howard Cosell.
Yes.
And it was driving me insane. It was like, okay, I've heard this is the 10th comedian in the studio doing Howard Cosell.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't funny anymore. But anyway, I digress, and I apologize because that's what I do when I'm doing a podcast. I think of something, and so I decide to interrupt the flow and go where I wanted to go.
No, which is perfectly acceptable because I know exactly what you're talking about, especially for somebody who has had a number of comedians on their show coming through. If anybody's going to know material that's been done over and over and over again, it's going to be someone like you who had all these people come through and sit across the studio.
But the thing was that it was so much fun to do because you had first of all, pardon me while I get all ramped up here again, Ellen DeGeneres would come in and just co-host the show.
Sure.
Felt perfectly comfortable in front of a microphone, and she would almost to the point of like put her hand up, I've got a question for the guest. You know what I mean? And we loved it. It's like, you're not in a hurry, you're not going anywhere, you're very funny, let's just keep doing this. Bill Engvall, another guy who was just, you can stay as long as you want, Bill. Tim Allen, of course, would come in all the time because he was constantly changing his act and constantly doing different stuff. And he just killed. He couldn't help but kill. Comedy is It's a really strange dance, as you know.
Well, and you don't know what you're going to get as far as a host. Going back to when we were talking even before we started recording about radio years ago, and just a seasoned host that knows questions to ask or say, how do you lead into something? It's not like I'm in a band and you can drop my song in. Here's what you're going to hear later on tonight at the Fox Theater or at the Palace or at Little Caesars Arena, whatever. You've got to get these people to, here's your leading question for this. Talk about your divorce. Talk about your gambling problem. Talk about drinking, whatever. Something that's going to pull the funny out of somebody if they're not going to be naturally funny.
And at the same time, the host has to know how to sort of blend into it like he thought that question was on the top of his mind to deliver it that way to make you kind of go, yeah, this guy gets it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Oh, it's funny you should mention that. My divorce, oh my God. I'm still buzzing from that deal, you know? And then you can go into it and do the bit, and everybody has a great time. And you can't tell me for a second, David Letterman, I thought, was the guy that I used to look at with the 5x7 cards. He would tap the cards and actually do the intro off the card.
Yeah.
And then he would put that card in the back and he would say, you've been going through a bit of a divorce. So why not do it that way? But it's a tough business to be in. I admire anybody that's in comedy. You're on the road a lot, but you have residency in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I traveled a lot more when I was in my unhappy marriage.
Yeah, how was... speaking of that, how bad was that marriage?
Let me tell you, when you miss going on the road, this is going to be great. Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, how long? 2 weeks? Is that it? Do you got anything else? Can I come by and drop your transmission, clean it, something, do whatever? I got to go back home after that? Damn. So I spent a lot more time on the road. I had lived grew up here in Michigan, and then I lived in Florida for 12 years when I was married, and then got divorced. I've been in Vegas now for the past 7. I spend a lot less time on the road now than I did before because it's like
you're happy now.
Because I'm happy now. Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I literally broke up with my ex. I moved to Las Vegas, and I woke up that first day when I woke up and my wife wasn't there. I'm like, it was just literally like doves flew out from under the bed.
But that seems to be typical of a lot of comedians. The road sort of becomes the spouse.
Yeah.
It
really does.
But in your case, your wife chased you out onto the road.
Yeah, I was like, this is, I don't mind being on the road. This is completely acceptable. I don't mind staying at a Motel 6 on the day off or a Days Inn with a hooker in the room next to me. Free breakfast happens in the morning. So it was it was much more of a struggle back then, and going out there and finding work, and it's still tough finding work today because you still have so much young talent that's coming up the ranks, that want to get the stages that you're standing on.
What about
what it comes down to?
How many people though come through Las Vegas? I mean, the really long, the seasoned, if you will, pros, the guys that have been doing it forever, that just take up almost residency in Vegas. Do you go see them and say, oh, I see what they're doing there. I sort of like that idea. Or do you say, boy, that's just the same old act I've seen over and over again?
Well, you don't have the guys in Vegas now like you had years ago. Like, you don't have your people like your Rickles and George Burns and those guys that were Milton Berle that were there all the time.
Do you ever wonder why a Seinfeld didn't take up one of those residency roles out there?
Well, he comes to Caesars every so often. He'll play a weekend.
Okay.
And it's every so often. Every few months he comes out. And
but I'm thinking if Aerosmith can do, 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Seinfeld just want to park out there? Of course, I guess that's a New York state of mind that you just don't want to do that.
Well, Brad Garrett will play at his club at the MGM.
Okay.
And he's just one of the...
I didn't know that Brad Garrett had a club.
Yeah. Brad Garrett's Comedy Club at the MGM.
Oh.
Fantastic club. Beautiful, gorgeous club.
I bet.
He pimped it out the way he would have wanted it when he was on the road doing stuff. But the place is amazing. He's one of the nicest guys in the world. And he comes out and he hosts the show. He's not the headliner. But he comes out and does maybe 20 minutes up front, brings out the feature act. The feature act does maybe 15 minutes. And then Brad comes back out and does about a half hour, and then brings up the headliner, comes out and does about a half hour. So, I mean, it's a full show. I mean, the audience is getting to see Brad, which is why they're there paying the money to see the show. But they're seeing also other great comics on the bill as well. And Brad doesn't try to dominate the show. He tries to make you look good. So he's like, he does his thing, boom. Hey, you know what? I got a good friend of mine here. You're going to love him, da-da-da-da-da, comedian from Detroit. Give it up for Derek Richards. And so he just sets you up.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
I bet he does.
And so his thing is about as close to a quote-unquote residency as you would get, because he's there quite a bit. I mean, he's still filming a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
he's still doing TV. He's still doing film and commercials and that. But he gets out there whenever he can.
Kathleen Madigan did a Showtime special at the Royal Oak Music Theater.
She's so funny.
Isn't she the greatest? I mean, just absolutely.
And one of the nicest people.
And the act changes like from week to week.
Yeah.
One thing I loved about Kathleen Madigan when I saw her this past, I guess, the late 2018, she just walked out as if we had just gotten out of the car together. That's how she treated the audience.
Yeah.
She just grabbed the mic and kind of went, oh, boy, I feel bad for Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
She just took a breath and started going. And I thought, boy, there's something I just learned about a really great comic. Total comfort with the room. Just came out, didn't have to like adjust the mic, move the mic, set it down, look around, laugh, and go, how we doing tonight? You know what I mean? I think you're obliged to do that just to hear your pipes, you know, if you're a comedian. But I like comedy so much that I just watch it and probably don't pay attention to it. I watch it instead of really listening to it.
Well, what's funny with that, too, is the difference with somebody like a Kathleen Madigan, who was there filming her special, you said, at the Royal Oak Music Theater.
Right. Well, no. At the Royal Oak Music Theater, but this past late November 2018, she was doing Mark Ridley's.
Right.
You know, and
she's there quite.
She was terrific.
She's there quite often.
And just slammed. Yeah, once it goes on sale, it's sold out. So
exactly.
But it's great to see her in a club like that.
And that's the difference, too. Yeah, it's always great to see a great comedian in an actual club like where they started.
Right.
Or a club setting like where they started. But in the case of like with Kathleen Madigan, the audience, like you said, tickets go on sale, they're sold out.
Right.
And all those people that are there, the MC goes up, ha ha ha, you're adorable, move along.
Right.
Feature act goes up, okay, you're funny too, and goodbye.
Yeah.
Now bring us the main entree.
Yeah.
So they're all there. The difference with that too is all those people are there to see her.
Yep.
They paid whatever they paid to see her. So you can come out there as Kathleen Madigan or any, major headliner. And if you just go and grab the mic and go, I feel sorry for Jeb Bush. You can do it because they're completely laser locked on you, as opposed to, some random tool bag like myself who comes up on stage and
don't do that.
The
You're
audience
not a
is
random tool bag. It's a good expression, though. A tool bag.
I was trying to.
I'll give you credit 3 times.
I was trying to keep that.
I know what you were doing there. Yeah,
keep that as PG as possible.
Tool bag's good.
But there's, you got somebody. I mean, are there people there that came there to see me? Some, but as a rule, if I'm playing at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle and someone's coming out to see a show, by and large, I mean, Mark brings in great acts.
Right.
People know they're going to be entertained, but they don't know who I am. So they're talking with the server about getting another. Vodka tonic, or they're getting, getting more popcorn or whatever. So they're not they're focused, but not completely laser focused.
Yeah.
Like when somebody like a Kathleen comes out, and she has a great stage presence about her, and she's just
because she makes
hysterical.
It look so incredibly easy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's so conversational and so relevant. And I think that no matter who you are as a comedian, I think you only age out of this when you don't keep writing and making your act fresh.
Refresh real quickly. We're just talking with Derek Richards on the Ken Calvert podcast here. That's my radio coming back when you reset, yet you realize that people are listening because they don't normally dial around to another podcast real quickly. They may stop and come back to it later, but if you're just coming back to it and going, oh, what was I listening to? It's Derek Richards in the studios here, out talking about the release today, 2019, of the Irish Comedy Tour. The main event took place in Connecticut, I believe.
The stage show.
That was the biggie. That was the big stage show. And it's a 1-hour show.
Yes.
And it's available. And it's a pay-per-view, though, at this point, right?
Correct.
It is, okay. And I'm going to let you list all of the various platforms that it's on because you've got it memorized. I have it in front of me, but go.
No, it's on Amazon Prime, Dish, DirecTV, iTunes, Comcast Xfinity, Vudu, Vimeo, YouTube, Google Play, and Microsoft Xbox as well. And you can buy the special for $12, or you can rent it for like $3 or $4.
And you know it's going to be funny, because I don't think anybody on the planet doesn't enjoy Irish humor.
No, exactly.
I really don't. I mean, if you don't, then there's just something wrong with you.
Well, and I think, it's... I like the way you put that. I'm going to put that in the marketing package.
Okay.
I feel like Irish humor, there's something wrong with you. Ken Calvert says this. I don't know what your problem is.
All right.
But the thing is, then we joke around about our Irish-American heritage, but at the end of the day, we get people that come up after shows, and they're families from Poland or from Germany, or they come from an Italian background, and people come up and they always will say, my aunt was like that, my grandma was like that, or my uncle did that all the time. And so at the end of the day, when you really think about it, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we all have our own quirks, and every nationality has those. So, if I'm joking around about something that my, Irish uncle did, someone else can relate to something that their uncle did. So that's the cool thing about the show.
Well, yeah, and that means they were listening. That means they were paying attention.
Exactly.
And that means that they found a common bond with you.
Yes.
And then, to me, that equals success. They were listening, they enjoyed, and I think anytime you're reminded of a good moment with your family, then that's a good thing. That's a good show. Derek, what about you? Because it's a podcast, so I can't say you're in the area right now, because the area could be anywhere in the entire world. But are you going to be back in Vegas for a little bit?
I'm in Vegas for a while.
If somebody's heading to Vegas,
absolutely.
Look for Derek Richards.
DerekRichards.com is my website.
Okay.
And you can find me. I'm going to be coming up the rest of the month of June. I'm going to be in Las Vegas at actually at the MGM Grand at Brad Garrett's for a week. I'm going to be at the Downtown Grand in Las Vegas, which is the old Lady Luck right off of Fremont Street. And then also Jokesters Comedy Club at the D Casino, which is advertised here in Detroit all the time on Fremont Street as well. But I'm in Vegas a lot. So, yeah, if you're coming out to Vegas, go to DerekRichards.com, and you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I always post the shows that I have coming up.
Well, I'm glad we finally got a chance to get together. We've been trying to do this for a while, and now it works out perfectly, because on the very day that the Irish Comedy Tour, the special goes on, if you will, I get you here in my house, the cozy studios of WKEN. So
no, I appreciate you having me.
It's an honor and a pleasure to meet you.
No,
and,
same here.
Thank you,
absolutely.
And continued success with everything you're doing, and come on back. All right?
Absolutely.
Will you do that? See you next time on the Ken Calvert Show podcast, everybody.
You can subscribe to the Ken Calvert Show podcast on Apple iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. It's also available by going directly to www.thekencalvertshow.com. You can reach Ken at kencalvertpodcast@gmail.com. The preceding program is the property of Ken Calvert and may not be rebroadcast without the written permission of Ken Calvert.